For more on the story, I'm joined by Home Affairs Minister himself, Mostoaledi. Minister, thank you for your time this evening. You must be very tired. You were out on the scene with the hawks, with the media in the early hours of this morning, being front and center with the sting. I think it was a few months ago you were also on hand at a sting at one of our border posts as well, where a few people were arrested. Why is it important for you to be so hands-on and involved with these kinds of operations?
Well, good evening. Good evening to the listeners and viewers. No, I want to be hands-on because corruption is one of the biggest problems that the Home Affairs Department is faced with. And I thought it's important to lead from the front, but also to make sure that things are going very well, because there are a lot of rumors about who has been corrupted, who is doing what. So I just wanted to make sure personally that things go well, and I'm there and I understand exactly what's happening, and also to understand the systems so that I don't depend on managers informing me. I see it myself and I know how the system works.
And are you finding it quite interesting? Because this one had to be kept under wraps. It was very, very hush-hush. How difficult was that?
It was very difficult because we spent many months. It's not that it's something that is started now. We started many months putting it under wraps, putting undercover agents, sending them, starting this culprit who you see on the screen now, because he's operating 6 provinces, understanding his methods, the people he's recruiting. Yes, indeed, we had to keep it under wraps. And I must confess, last night I was very jittery. I was fighting with the officers because I wanted to pounce in, and they were saying, no, wait, Minister, we need evidence. When we heard that he has arrived there and he has arrived with people, I was saying, no, let's rush, we'll run away. And they said, no, Minister, you need patience. Otherwise, what will you charge people for? You'll just charge them for trespassing. We need evidence that they are going to do what they are accused of doing. And so I have to sit there for 3 hours and just sitting and waiting for 3 hours. It was quite strenuous for me, but eventually it paid off.
It sounds like a stakeout that you only see in Hollywood movies. So you had to take instructions for a change, even though you are the minister. Now, Minister, just let's go back to the beginning of where this all started. And it started off with one of your officials identifying passports that they felt had some anomalies. And I think it was an immigration officer who picked it up at the airport. How important is that starting point for an official to say, hang on a minute, something is a bit fishy here, and raising the alarm? How important is that starting point?
It is important, but I must confess, it's not the only event. It was adding to the others, which were already surprising. Others were surprising because some of the people, these South Africans who are paid 500 rand to sell their identity, they met with problems, problems that they never were going to happen. And they had to come to Home Affairs and confess. And so at the time they were confessing, this official who was very vigilant picked up this anomaly. Then it showed us that something is happening here that needs to be investigated. This is how, maybe let me explain how the racket is carried on, then you'll understand why people had to come and confess. You see, the South Africans who are recruited, they are recruited together with foreign nationals. They arrive at the Home Affairs office belonging to a manager who is part of this scheme during the night. The South African is a South African who doesn't have a passport. So they apply for a passport, give their name, their address, even their ID, and a fingerprint. That's what you do when you apply for a passport. But when it comes to the time of taking a photo, the South African is pushed aside. The Pakistani then comes in, takes the space, and take the photo. And then the passport is issued with the names of the South Africans. But the picture of the Pakistani, remember, in passports all over the world, more add photos than names, because how will they know names of people? They just want to see that the photo here, it looks like you. Then you go past, and that's why they are able to utilize such passports. Then the South African believe it's over. They've taken their 500 rand, they are gone. What they don't know is because photos these days are no longer, the small size photos which you take them physically. It is digital. It's digital photos. Now, our system, when you take a digital photo, which must go to the National Population Register, the recent photo you take will wipe off all those others, and you remain with the most recent one. If it is me, for instance, I've had an ID for ages. If I go to take a passport now, the photo I'm taking now is going to wipe up those in the system, not on my ID, but in the system. It's going to wipe up all the old photos and put the new one. Now you can imagine all your photos being wiped out, but it's not your new photo that is put there. It's a photo of a Pakistani national. Basically, he has removed you from existence, and he has taken over. When you go to the bank, because the banks don't just look into your ID, they also do a background check, and they go into the National Population Register. And they found a different photo there, then they refuse to serve you. That's how people have to run back to Home Affairs to confess and say, this is what happened. And it coincided with that official seeing something funny in passports. And so we went on to start the investigation.
Now, Minister Mostoaledi, I mean, the criminals are one thing, but they wouldn't be able to get anywhere unless they had help from the inside. And that must be very concerning for you. With these operations you've been involved in is the number of Home Affairs officials, people being paid with taxpayers' money that are helping these criminals get away with these rackets. Are you looking into how it's possible for these criminal elements to get their hooks into the Home Affairs officials or the officials that work for government? Is it just money? Is it opportunity? Are you looking into that relationship and trying to find a way of nipping that in the bud as part of this program to wipe out corruption?
Indeed, indeed. It is great and a love of money and nothing else, because they get paid. Now, Home Affairs is very tempting. Many government departments, when they talk about corruption, they mean in the section that deals with supply chain management. In Home Affairs, corruption is everywhere. In the where you take your IDs in Home Affairs offices, at the borders, almost everywhere in Home Affairs, there's an opportunity for corruption. And of course, tax states make use of that opportunity for Home Affairs officials who are untrustworthy. But I must state that there are many Home Affairs officials who are very, very trustworthy. And that's why they were able to help us. So in Home Affairs, because of this, what I've just described, we are the only government department that has got a branch, a whole branch, which is doing with corruption. We call it the anti-corruption branch. And it's for inside corruption. It's for people working for Home Affairs. And why am I saying we are the only department? Because if you know the structure of government, you have got the Director General. Then from there, you have got DDGs or Deputy Director General, people who are second in charge. If you go to many government departments, they've got risk managers at the level of Director or Chief Director. But Home Affairs has got the counter-corruption, who is the most senior risk manager, who is running that unit and is concentrating not mostly on outsiders, mostly, but on Home Affairs officials who happen to be corrupt. Because the nature of the job in Home Affairs is that you can easily be bribed. But we are proud that we have got people like this Kingpin. At some stage, we could have caught him long ago, but we wanted more evidence because he approached one of our officials and he wanted to bribe him for 250,000 rand. But the official refused and came and reported to us. Some were saying, okay, let's give him money that is marked to go and give it to him, and we arrest him, and we said, no, let's wait a bit. Let's unveil even more and let this gentleman keep on, keep on talking to him and not accepting the money until we unveil even more. And that's why we arrived here where we are today. So there are good Home Affairs officials, and there are a few who are spoiling them. And unfortunately, we are going to deal with them very harshly. There's no question about that. Somebody said the other time that, Minister, you say you are going to bring corruption to an end in Home Affairs. You might have to fire 2/3 of the staff. I said, if that is the case, so be it. So be it. We will continue firing as long as we find rotten apples, and we'll deal with them harshly.
Minister, just before we go, one last question to you. I spoke to your new border management boss. He was at a conference in Dubai. I think it was just last week or the week before that. And I asked him about how important it is for the reputation of the security of our borders, and for you, the security of our passports, how important it is for the reputations of the South African passports and the South African borders to be revitalized or to be mended, as it were, so that we don't have such a bad reputation, A, and B, you know, there's been a lot of talk around xenophobia. We've had these programs, anti-undocumented nationals programs that have been getting a lot of publicity. Is the hope that if we can mend the reputation of our passports and the reputation of our borders, that it can help bring down the heat of those xenophobic conversations and of the conversations of our borders and our passports not being secure when ordinary South Africans travel abroad?
Look, it is very important for us to bring back the reputation of both the security of our borders and the issue of our passport. Because when our passport is not regarded as secure, it loses reputation. It affects each and every South African. It affects me. It affects you. Because a few years ago, when our passport was regarded to be secure, people used to go to countries like UK visa-free. South African used to pay nothing. They never used to apply for a visa. But now we are forced to apply for a visa and pay a lot of money because of our passport not regarded as secure. And the people who caused that were not South Africans. It was people from other countries who were caught with our passports. And the British complained and said, no, this is no longer safe. So they are destroying us, not only our reputation, they are busy destroying our systems. So it is for that reason that I want to make this very clear. This accusation of xenophobia, every time you point to something that's wrong, it's not going to touch me at all. I regard it as a toy gun that is pointed at us, so that at best we shrink and at worst we duck under the table. I am not going to shrink. I am not going to duck. There is no toy gun that is going to scare me. And the accusation of xenophobia is a toy gun. What we are doing here is what is done by all the other countries. Every country has got its borders secured. Every country has got its documents secured. Every country wants its sovereignty to be respected and its laws to be respected. And it's law all over the continent and elsewhere in the world. So why should South Africa be different? Why should it be termed xenophobic when it's doing the right thing? So I want to make it very clear that the word xenophobia has got no meaning for me as long as I'm doing the right thing, until somebody shows me in terms of the law that what I'm doing is illegal, is against the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa, is against the laws of the Republic, then I'll blink. But before that, I am not going to blink. That I can assure you.
Okay, we're going to leave it there. Thank you so much. Strong words there from Home Affairs Minister Mostoaledi. We thank him for his time.